talk about the solutions. The Livermore Group. Livermore scientists developed CO2 sequestration technique that produces super green hydrogen fuel and offsets ocean acidification. So, at a summit in 2016, the Lawrence Livermore Group gave a presentation on new emission-free fuel they were generating. But that wasn't their most promising discovery. An alkaline solution generated in their fuel-making process could be slowly added to the oceans to combat and neutralize acidification. Their process, using saline water electrolysis, involves the decomposition of water into its components, oxygen and hydrogen gases. By passing a current into the solution using 2 electrodes, basic electrolysis guys, made from platinum or steel, acidity in the form of hydrogen ions appears at the cathode while oxygen appears at the anode. The electrolyte solution obtained from the resulting process, involving a saline and mineral solution, was found to have high levels of hydroxide that exhibited strong atmospheric CO2 absorption and retention capacity. So, just to recap and break that down, in an attempt to break up water into its components, hydrogen and oxygen, using a simple electrolysis to harness hydrogen for their new form of fuel, it was unspecified in my research, and I understand why. It's probably very valuable information. The Livermore Group was left with a mineral solution with high concentrations of hydroxide ions. In the diagram that I pulled, I just wanted to refresh everyone's memory on a simple electrolysis. So in their experiment, hydrogen ions appeared at the cathode, and oxygen appeared at the anode, and the leftover solution in the center had high concentrations of hydroxide ions, which led to a very basic solution. The implications of this. The hydroxide ions would neutralize the excess hydrogen ions in ocean water, preventing bicarbonate from forming and allowing marine ecosystems to recuperate. So, this solution would pull hydrogen ions from the water and help it become more basic and help neutralize the general acidification issues that our oceans are having. This has only been tested at a laboratory scale. Potentially dumping large amounts of chemicals or solutions into the ocean is generally not a good idea, but they did have success with this on a small laboratory scale. Experiment number 2. Adding rocks to coastal areas could deacidify water and save coral. As a potential solution, Francesc Montserrat of the Royal Netherlands Institute for Sea Research and his colleagues are exploring whether a natural mineral can mop up unwanted acid in seawater. Olivine is a magnesium silicate mineral that is mainly found in the Earth's subsurface. It's formed by magma or molten rock poured onto the Earth's surface, and has been previously suggested as a way to soak up atmospheric CO2. When it is placed in seawater, it gradually swaps its magnesium ions for protons, thereby helping to remove the acidity. At the bottom of the slide, I just included a few images of olivine for context, and then a magnesium silicate diagram on the side next to a water molecule. Olivine continued. This group studied the effects in seawater tanks 1 cubic meter in size, which contained living creatures and were designed to mimic a marine ecosystem. When the mineral was ground up and applied as a 1.5 centimeter layer over the base of natural sediment, the pH of the seawater increased with no adverse effects on the marine life in the tank. However, when a 3 centimeter layer of olivine was used, the lungworms and other marine organisms inhabiting the sediment died. This may be because the pH change was too great and they didn't have enough time to adapt, or trace amounts of nickel present in the mineral poisoned the organisms. Their results were inconclusive. So this solution is dependent on the amount of olivine we can obtain as a society and the concentrations used. Further testing, of course, needs to be made before we can put a concrete solution into place, especially with the results of their experiment, seeing how it could really go one way or the other. However, Francesc Montserrat believes that this is a probable solution for local environments, but not necessarily a permanent one or a large-scale one. At the bottom of the slide, I've just included another image of a magnesium silicate and how hydrogen ions can replace the magnesium ions in the silicate. Finally, increasing alkalinity. The California Academy of Sciences team experimented adding sodium hydroxide to the seawater of a lagoon to increase its alkalinity. This team measured the change in alkalinity as the seawater flowed across the reef into a neighboring lagoon. By adding hydroxide ions to the water, the team managed to make the lagoons more alkaline, as sodium hydroxide, a strong base, breaks up 100% in solution. As a reminder, I've just added a diagram at the bottom of the page. The team brought the reef's pH closer to what it would have been in the pre-industrial period, roughly 8.18. As a refresher, between 1751 and 1996, surface ocean's pH was estimated to have decreased from 8.25 to 8.14, so the pH was just decreasing even before pre-industrial times. But they got it pretty close. After measuring the reef's calcification in response to this pH increase, they found that calcification rates under these manipulated pre-industrial conditions were even better than they are today. Reefs increased by a 2% growth over the first month, and if you remember back to the first slide, that's almost double the decrease that reefs have been facing in growth and structure over the last few years. Increasing alkalinity. So this process has only been tested on a small scale. Again, adding large amounts of chemicals to the ocean isn't advised in any sense, but the team does have a 24-hour cam set up so you can watch the lagoon's progress and keep up with their experiment. In conclusion, many of the ongoing experiments we've looked at to combat ocean acidification involve adding something to our oceans to remove hydrogen ions. We're all biochemistry students. If we were thinking of deacidifying the oceans, this is probably the route we would take. The IAP, a leader in governmental solutions, warned in 2009 that mitigation approaches, such as adding chemicals to counter the effects of acidification, are likely to be expensive, only partly effective, and only at a very local scale. And many pose additional unanticipated risks to the marine environment. Substantial research is needed before these techniques can be applied. And we know they're not wrong. Combating ocean acidification is potentially dangerous, especially when chemical engineering is involved. But we can all agree that something needs to be done. Now, what can you do? You can cut down on your carbon emissions. It's as simple as walking, using public transport, or taking the extra step and looking into companies that you support and their green initiatives. A lot of companies now are trying to make themselves more green because they know that the large impact they have. They know of the large impact they have. Please be mindful of our environment, what you can do to help. Just because it isn't directly affecting you now doesn't mean it won't in the near future. I try to stay up to date on the progress of these experiments and more, so if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at erin.fallon@purchase.edu. Thank you for listening and giving me the opportunity to educate you.